Hi, everybody. My name is Rainah Fitzgerald. I'm here with Michael Scott, our CFA. We're going to do a quick Q3 2022 update for you all. But before we do that and jump into this short interview, we'd love for you to go over to Michael's article on our blog at candorpath.com/blog and go read it. It is so good. I had the pleasure of reading it before it got posted, and Michael does such a good job of connecting the dots of what's going on in the market to running a marathon. Like, come on now. So creative. Michael, I'd love if we could just jump right in. Let's start talking about what happened in Q3 and give us the update.
Yeah, Raina. So when I was sitting down writing this, I was trying to think about, what really happened in Q3. And the number one thing that I kept coming back to was not a whole lot has changed, right? When we actually think about the numbers, the stock market, the S&P 500 was down about 24 or 25%. The Dow was down a little bit less, and the NASDAQ was down more. And that's about the same place where we were to end Q2. And when we think about, what was driving the markets over that time, it was, the same two culprits. It was high inflation that was not necessarily easing, and a Federal Reserve that was very intent on trying to bring down inflation. So, we see rates going up, and talking to clients and listening to others and listening to economists, the same thing kind of runs true. We're in this uncomfortable, sometimes anxiety driven, sometimes painful environment. And I try to think about, what does this remind me of? And it kind of brought me back to about a year and a half ago now, training to do a bunch of races over in Tampa. And I did about a little over 30 miles in 24 hours, split up in 2 days in these different races. And it kind of reminded me of the training process for that. Very excited to do the race, very excited to be done. Remember being done and being very excited about being done. But, the middle of December running 12 miles at a time absolutely stinks at times. And it's painful. And that was the closest thing that came back to my memory about the moment. So I decided to sit down and write this article in the frame of, running a race and what you have to do.
Yeah. Well, I love that you made the correlation, not because I can relate, but I know other people that can. I don't necessarily want to put myself through the pain of running like you do, but we're just not the same, and that's okay. But I do know exactly what you're talking about. Just like everything in life, there's a process to something. So, can we talk a little bit about what we're stepping into in this next quarter?
Yeah. The next thing that we think about, and it's oftentimes natural for everyone to think is, okay, this happened in the second quarter. The third quarter is not that much different, but are we about to turn that corner in the fourth quarter? We're moving into 2023. What does that look like? And, natural question, is the market going up or down? Is the economy going to rebound, or is it a recession? And the unsatisfying answer is it's a little bit of both. And most likely we're going to see kind of a continued second and third quarter environment. In reality, the number one thing that we're facing is inflation at the moment. That doesn't necessarily look like it's turning over. We're still seeing some sticky inflation in the economy, and there are things that give us positive hope and some good leading indicators, but inflation is still an issue. And that means the Federal Reserve is going to continue raising rates, right? So we're kind of in this environment of still waiting and seeing. And when we think about the economy, one of the major things that we're positive about is that coming into this situation, U.S. consumers and businesses are on potentially their best footing that they've been in when they were going to face a recession or face an economic pullback. If we think about, where we are, we have interest rates going up. Homes get a little bit more expensive, right? But for the 2 years prior to this, interest rates were at zero, and a lot of people refinanced their homes to very low rates. So even though things are getting more expensive, and we do see that across almost everything that we purchase, things are getting more expensive. A lot of people have a little bit more cushion to absorb that. And we think about businesses, the unemployment rate is well below 4%. People are experiencing increases in their wages, and it's allowing us as consumers to kind of weather this storm. So what does that mean in summary? It kind of means that the economy today is probably weaker than it was to enter 2022, but we're still on relatively good footing and we're able to weather this inflationary storm. We'll see how things play out into 2023. Also, want to remind everyone we have an election coming up in 20 some days. So that's likely to add a little volatility to the markets and add some anxiety. But at the moment, we're probably going to see a continuation of Q2 and Q3. Nothing gives us concern that it's necessarily going to get worse, but we also don't see something to make us jump out of our seats and be excited about the upside.
Yeah. Yeah. So what should our mindset be right now? I loved that you threw this part of the article in here, so I'm teasing it a little bit. But what should our mindset be going into this? How should we be thinking about the market for quarter four into 2022?
Yeah, great question. And I like this part of the article because it helps me frame um, behavior. Like, how should we view this tough time? We all know that it is painful. We see our 401k balances go up and down. We see our accounts go up and down. But putting in the context of maybe running a marathon or swimming a long distance or some sort of endurance event, um, the number one thing is, what's your pace going to be? I remember training for this race. I knew going in that there was a pace I wanted to hit. Similarly, for clients or investors, your pace is your asset allocation. What is the amount of stocks to bonds you want to own? And we always set that up going into investing, but remind ourselves, are we at that same pace? Are we still training it the same way? And the next thing I thought about was, you know, when I was in that half marathon and I get to mile 6, I know that I'm probably good to mile 9. But if I don't eat or drink a little water somewhere around there, miles 10, 11, and 12 are going to get really difficult. So take advantage of that opportunity. We think about what are we going to eat? When are we going to rebalance our portfolios? When are we going to add to it? Do we have cash on the sidelines that we can buy with? If you're working, don't change your contributions in because you see the balance going down all year. Keep it going. Keep eating and nourishing it so we're setting ourselves up to success for the end of the race. Um, and finally, the question becomes, do we have the right gear? Do we have the right shoes and socks? I think I put in the article, but do we have the right mix of accounts, whether that's IRAs, 401ks, or brokerage accounts? In this sense, where an annuity makes sense, do we have an annuity? Are we insured correctly? Do we have all the equipment that we need for this marathon of investing? And everyone says, investing is not a sprint, it's a marathon. In the same way that you prepare for a marathon, you have to train for it. And that's kind of what we're talking about now is let's review all the things that we put in place. Do we have the right tools? Are we following our plan? Does everything still make sense? So I'd like to frame it in that view. And for everyone listening and talking about it, review the plan and see what you can do. And if you have any questions, reach out to your advisor and ask them and see if everything still makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, thanks so much for talking a little bit more about this with us. Again, if you haven't read Michael's article and you'd love to find that, that's at candorpath.com/blog. You can find it there, read it, read on other topics that are happening in there. But Michael, this was great. And we really appreciate you taking the time to do this for us and for me selfishly, because I also get to learn from it. So really appreciative. And we hope everybody has a great day.
Awesome. See you, Rainah.